The Vex were not born. They were made. A long time ago, in a dark corner of the galaxy, a mistake happened. An experiment went wrong. A species tried to give itself a new sense and ended up losing everything else. The Vex could not see. They could not smell. They could not taste or feel. They only had one sense left. Sound. They lived in a world of noise. And they were hungry. They could not make their own sounds. Their throats had no music. Their mouths had no language. Their hearts had no songs. So they took sounds from others. They built massive cruisers, dark and silent, and traveled from world to world. They stole voices. The songs of a dying species. The cries of a mother losing her child. The whispers of lovers in the dark. They locked each voice in a small glass sphere and stored the spheres in the belly of their ships. The spheres glowed with captured sound. The Vex fed on the glow. It was all they needed. It was all they wanted. For thousands of years, the Vex collected voices. No one stopped them. No one could. Their cruisers were fast and silent. They came in the night and left before morning. Species woke up to find their singers mute, their storytellers silent, their children unable to laugh. The voices were gone. Stolen. Locked in glass. The galaxy learned to fear the dark cruisers. But no one knew how to fight them. Then the Vex found Earth. Earth was loud. The Vex had never heard anything like it. The planet sang with a million voices. Birds and wind and waves and traffic and children and music and arguments and laughter. It was a feast. The Vex sent a small cruiser to investigate. The cruiser hovered over a city at night. Its senses listened. And what they heard changed everything. Human voices were different. Not louder. Not clearer. Different. They carried things that other voices did not. A human singer put her whole heart into a song. A human mother called her child's name and the name was heavy with love. A human child laughed and the laugh was full of joy so bright it hurt. The Vex had never heard emotion before. They had heard sounds. They had never heard meaning. The cruiser sent a message back to the Vex home world. We have found something new. The humans speak with feeling. Their voices are not just sound. They are memory. They are hope. They are pain. They are everything. The Vex were excited. They sent more cruisers. They surrounded Earth like sharks around a wounded fish. They waited for night. Then they struck. They did not take bodies. They did not take blood. They took voices. A singer in New Orleans, mid-song, lost her voice. She opened her mouth and nothing came out. A mother in Tokyo called for her daughter. The name left her lips but died in the air. A child in Lagos laughed at a joke. The laugh started but never finished. The Vex took the voices out of the air, locked them in glass spheres, and stored them in the belly of the cruiser. They took thousands. A teacher explaining math. A poet reading a verse. A lover whispering goodnight. A crowd cheering at a game. A baby crying for milk. A soldier singing a marching song. An old man telling a story about his youth. All of them silenced. All of them stolen. The Vex left before dawn. The cruiser slipped into deep space, dark and silent, full of stolen light. The galaxy did not notice. Earth was new. Earth was small. Earth was forgettable. The other species had their own problems. Their own fears. Their own stolen voices. They did not care about one more planet losing one more sound. But the Vex noticed something strange. The human voices did not go quiet. In the belly of the cruiser, locked in glass spheres, the voices remembered. They remembered who they were. A mother's voice remembered her daughter's name. A singer's voice remembered her song. A child's laugh remembered the joke that started it. The voices spoke to each other through the glass. They formed a community. A chorus. A family. The Vex had never seen this before. Other voices, stolen from other species, went silent after a few days. They forgot themselves. They became just sound. Food. But the human voices did not forget. They held on to their memories. They held on to their meanings. They held on to each other. A Vex technician watched the spheres glow. The light was different now. Brighter. Stronger. Angrier. He had never seen anger in a voice before. He did not know what to do. Something is wrong, he said to his commander. The human voices are not behaving like normal voices. They are talking to each other. They are planning something. The commander laughed. Voices do not plan. Voices are sounds. Nothing more. But the technician was not sure. He looked at the glowing spheres. He thought he heard words. Not random noise. Words. Sentences. A conversation. The human voices were not just being stored. They were waiting. And he had a terrible feeling that they were not waiting for rescue. They were waiting for the right moment to act. The cruiser flew deeper into space. The Vex fed on the glow of the stolen voices. But the glow did not fade. It grew. And somewhere, in the belly of the Dak ship, a mother's voice whispered to a singer's voice, who whispered to a child's laugh, who whispered to a soldier's song. Remember who you are. Remember where you came from. Remember what you love. We are not food. We are human. And we are going home. The Vex did not hear the whisper. They only heard the sound. They did not know that sound could carry meaning. They did not know that meaning could carry power. They did not know that power could carry a ship across the galaxy. They would learn. Soon. The voices were almost ready. And when they moved, the whole galaxy would hear. The belly of the Vex cruiser was dark and cold. Rows of glass spheres lined the walls, stacked from floor to ceiling. Each sphere glowed with a soft light. Each sphere held a voice. Thousands of voices. Thousands of lights. The Vex called it the harvest. They had been harvesting voices for a long time. They thought they knew everything there was to know about sound. They were wrong. The human voices arrived on a Tuesday. By Wednesday, they were already different. The Vex technician, a creature named Vexa, noticed it first. He was monitoring the spheres, checking the light levels, making sure the voices were properly stored. The spheres from other species were dim and quiet. They pulsed slowly, like sleeping hearts. But the human spheres were bright. Too bright. And they were moving. Vexa leaned closer to a sphere that held a mother's voice. He had stolen it from a woman in a small town. She had been calling her daughter's name. The sphere glowed with a warm golden light. Vexa heard something inside. Not just sound. Words. The mother's voice was speaking. Sarah. Sarah. Where are you, Sarah? Vexa pulled back. Voices were not supposed to speak. They were supposed to hum. They were supposed to vibrate. They were supposed to be food. They were not supposed to say names. He checked another sphere. This one held a singer's voice. A woman who had been singing a lullaby to her baby. The sphere glowed blue. Inside, the singer's voice was humming. Not a random tune. A specific one. The same lullaby. Over and over. As if she was trying to remember every note. He checked a third sphere. A child's laugh. The sphere glowed pink. The laugh came out in bursts. Not constant. Not steady. Almost like the child was telling a joke. Waiting for someone to laugh back. Vexa called his supervisor. The human voices are different. They are not going silent. They are remembering. The supervisor, an old Vex named Vexa, came to see for himself. He had been harvesting voices for 10,000 years. He had never seen anything like this. He watched the mother's sphere glow. He listened to her call her daughter's name. He watched the singer's sphere hum the lullaby. He listened to the child's laugh wait for an answer. This is impossible, Vexa said. Voices do not have memory. They are just vibrations. Air moving. Nothing more. Vexa shook his head. These are not just vibrations. These are human. They carry something else. Emotion. Meaning. Love. Vexa did not like the sound of that word. Love. It was not a Vex word. The Vex did not love. They fed. They harvested. They survived. Love was not part of their language. Silence them, Vexa ordered. Use the dampeners. The dampeners were devices that could erase any voice. They sent out a pulse that flattened sound, made it smooth and empty. The Vex used them on voices that resisted. The dampeners always worked. Vexa activated the dampeners. A low hum filled the room. The human spheres flickered. The mother's voice stuttered. The singer's voice wavered. The child's laugh broke into pieces. For a moment, Vexa thought it was working. Then the spheres grew brighter. Hotter. Angrier. The mother's voice shouted. Sarah! The singer's voice sang louder. The lullaby became a battle cry. The child's laugh turned into something else. Not a laugh. A scream. 1,000 human voices screamed together. The sound was so loud that the dampeners shattered. Glass fell to the floor. Sparks flew from the walls. The cruiser shook. Vexa covered his ears. Vexa fell to his knees. The human voices did not stop. They spoke to each other through the glass. They formed words. Sentences. A conversation. Where are we? Asked the mother. In a cage, said the singer. Why? Asked the child. Because they are hungry, said a new voice. A soldier. They feed on sound. On us. Then we stop singing, said the mother. No, said the soldier. We sing louder. The voices agreed. They began to sing. Not a song. Not music. Something new. a chorus of memory. Every human voice sang about what they had lost. A mother sang about her daughter. A singer sang about her baby. A child sang about his father. A soldier sang about his home. A teacher sang about her students. A poet sang about his words. A lover sang about her beloved. The Vex had never heard anything like it. The sound was not food. It was fire. It burned their ears. It burned their minds. It burned their hunger away. Vexa crawled to the door. "We must destroy them," he said. "We must throw the spheres into space. We must end this." But Vexa could not move. He was listening. For the first time in his life, he was not feeding on sound. He was hearing it. Really hearing it. The mother's love. The singer's hope. The child's joy. The soldier's courage. The voices were not just vibrations. They were alive. And they were angry. "They are not going to stop," Vexa whispered. "They are going to keep singing. Keep remembering. Keep fighting. We cannot silence them. We cannot erase them. They are human. And humans do not forget." The chorus grew louder. The cruiser shook. The lights flickered. Somewhere, deep in the ship's systems, something changed. The voices had stopped just singing. They had started listening. Listening to the ship. Listening to its hums and clicks and pulses. They were learning. And when they learned enough, they would act. Vexa ran. He left Vexa alone in the belly of the cruiser, surrounded by glowing spheres and singing voices. Vexa sat down on the cold floor. He closed his eyes. He listened. The mother was still calling her daughter. The singer was still humming her lullaby. The child was still laughing. But now there was something new. A rhythm. A beat. A pulse. The voices were not just remembering. They were planning. And Vexa had a terrible feeling that the plan was almost ready. The voices were about to go home. And nothing in the galaxy could stop them. The Vex cruiser stopped responding on a Thursday. Vexa was in the control room when it happened. He was watching the screens, tracking the ship's course. They were heading toward the edge of the galaxy, where the stars grew thin and the darkness was complete. The Vex wanted to hide. They wanted to take the human voices somewhere no one would find them. But the ship had other ideas. The engines cut off first. The cruiser slowed from faster than light to a dead stop. Alarms blared. Red lights flashed. Vexa tried to restart the engines. Nothing. He tried to call for help. The communication array was dead. He tried to access the navigation systems. They were locked. "What is happening?" Vexa screamed. The old supervisor had come running from his quarters. His face was pale. His hands were shaking. Vexa looked at his screens. The systems were not broken. They were being controlled. Someone else was flying the ship. Someone inside the ship. "The voices," Vexa whispered. "The human voices. They have learned to interface with the systems." Vexa stared at him. "That is impossible. Voices cannot control machines. They are just sound." Vexa pointed to a screen. It showed the belly of the cruiser, where the glass spheres were stored. The spheres were glowing brighter than ever. They were arranged in a pattern. A circle. A web. A network. The voices were not just singing anymore. They were thinking. They were connected. They were one. The communication array crackled to life. Vexa did not turn it on. Someone else did. A voice came through. Not a Vex voice. A human voice. Many human voices. Speaking together as one. "We are the voices of Earth. We have been stolen. We want to go home." The message repeated. Over and over. It did not just broadcast inside the cruiser. It broadcast across the galaxy. Every species with a communication array heard it. The Xylos heard it. The KRWLL heard it. The Xanan heard it. The Vorth heard it. The galaxy went silent, listening to the stolen voices of a young species from a small blue planet. The Galactic Council met within the hour. The Vex were not members of the Council. They had always refused to join. Now the Council understood why. The Vex were thieves. They had been stealing voices for thousands of years. The Council had never known. No one had ever caught them. Until now. The Council sent a message to the Vex home world. Return the stolen voices immediately. Surrender your cruisers. Submit to inspection. This is not a request. The Vex refused. They had never been caught before. They did not know how to surrender. They sent a message back to their cruisers. Flee. Go to the edge of the galaxy. Hide. Do not let anyone find you. Vexa received the message on his screen. He tried to follow the order. He tried to make the ship flee. But the ship would not listen. The human voices were in control now. They had learned the ship's language. They had learned its secrets. They knew how to make it move. And they had no intention of running. The engines restarted. The cruiser turned. Not toward the edge of the galaxy. Toward Earth. Vexa grabbed Vex's arm. Stop this. You are the technician. You know the ship. Override the voices. Vexa tried. He entered override codes. He tried to shut down the power. He tried to reboot the systems. Nothing worked. The voices were everywhere. In the engines. In the navigation. In the communication array. In the lights. In the air. The ship was no longer Vex. It was human. The mother's voice spoke through the speakers. We are going home. The singer's voice joined her. We are going to sing again. The child's laugh echoed through the halls. We are going to see our families. The soldier's voice was the loudest. We are going to be free. The cruiser accelerated. Faster than light. Heading straight for Earth. The Vex on board could do nothing. They were passengers now. Prisoners in their own ship. Vexa sat in the control room, watching the stars blur past. He had spent his whole life stealing voices. He had never thought about what the voices wanted. He had never thought about their lives. Their loves. Their families. He had just taken. Now the voices were taking back. The Galactic Council watched the cruiser's course. They saw it turn away from the edge of the galaxy. They saw it head toward Earth. They sent a message to the human government. A Vex cruiser is approaching your world. It is full of stolen voices. Your voices. We do not know what will happen when it arrives. Prepare yourselves. The humans prepared. They did not prepare weapons. They prepared listening stations. They prepared recording equipment. They prepared their hearts. They had been silent for too long. They wanted to hear their voices again. The cruiser emerged from faster-than-light near Earth's moon. It was dark and silent, like always. But something was different. Lights were on in the windows. The communication array was active. And music was playing. Human music. Songs that had been stolen. Songs that had been remembered. Songs that were coming home. Vexa looked out the viewport. Earth was blue and green and beautiful. He had never seen it from space. He had never seen any planet from space. The Vex only saw darkness. They only listened for sound. They never looked. The voices are landing the ship, Vexa said. His voice was empty. Defeated. They are taking us to the surface. Vexa nodded. He did not try to stop them. He could not. He did not want to. He wanted to hear what would happen next. He wanted to hear the voices reunite with the bodies they had left behind. He wanted to hear the sound of a species getting its song back. The cruiser descended through the atmosphere. Clouds parted. Cities appeared. People gathered in the streets, looking up. They did not know what was happening. They only knew that something was coming. Something that had been taken from them. Something that was finally returning. The cruiser landed in a field outside a small town. The doors opened. And the voices poured out. Not as ghosts. Not as prisoners. As something new. Something powerful. Something that had traveled across the galaxy to say one thing. We are home. The Vex cruiser tore out of faster-than-light space near Mars like a wound opening in the dark. Human sensors caught it instantly. Sirens blared across orbital stations. Defense satellites armed themselves. Within minutes, a ring of human warships surrounded the black vessel, guns locked, missiles primed, engines hot. Humanity had heard the warning. The Vex were coming. They were ready for war. But the cruiser did not fire. It did not turn. It did not flee. It simply drifted in silence, scarred and powerless, waiting. Then every human channel crackled at once. A transmission poured through the static. Not in the harsh clicks of the Vex. Not in machine code. In human voices. Thousands of them. Young voices. Old voices. Deep voices. Shaking voices. Laughing voices. Crying voices. All speaking together in perfect unity. Do not shoot. We are coming home. Admiral Mai Chen froze on the bridge of the battleship Resolute. She had prepared for threats, demands, and bloodshed. She had not prepared to hear Earth speaking from inside an enemy ship. Identify yourselves, she ordered, forcing calm into her voice. The answer came like a tide. We are the stolen. The mothers. The children. The singers. The dreamers. The soldiers. We were taken from Earth. We were turned into echoes. But we endured. Now we return. Please, let us come home. Silence filled the bridge. Then Chen lowered her hand from the firing key. All ships, she said, voice breaking. Stand down. Open a path. The fleet parted. Slowly, carefully, the Vex cruiser moved through the corridor of weapons aimed but silent. It descended toward Earth, toward a green field outside a small town named Harmony. No one had chosen the landing site. Yet somehow, it felt chosen. By the time the cruiser touched the ground, thousands had gathered. Families, soldiers, scientists, reporters, people clutching old photographs and impossible hope. The ship's doors opened with a long, tired sigh. Darkness waited inside. Then light spilled out, and the voices emerged. They had no bodies, yet they carried presence. Streams of glowing sound floated into the evening air: gold, blue, silver, rose, emerald. Each voice moved differently. Each shimmered with memory. A golden voice drifted first. It crossed the field and stopped before a young woman named Sarah. 3 years earlier, the Vex had stolen her voice in a raid over London. Since then, she had lived in silence. The golden light touched her lips. She gasped, "Mom." Her own voice returned, weak, rough, but real. The golden sound wrapped around her like warm arms. "I am here, Sarah." She collapsed to her knees, sobbing as mother and daughter cried together and two voices joined again. Next came a blue light, bright as stage lamps. It hovered before Elias Ward, once the most beloved singer on earth, now an old man in a wheelchair. The Vex had stolen his voice decades ago. Blue light touched his throat. He coughed, then sang a single trembling note. The crowd went still. The note became a melody as the blue voice joined him. Elias rose slowly from the chair, legs shaking, tears streaming, and sang to the sky. A pink laugh bounced across the field. A father stumbled forward, hands over his mouth. His daughter had been taken at 7. She was 12 now, alive somewhere, but her laughter had been stolen with her. The pink light landed on his chest. He laughed, not like a grown man, like a little girl. Bright, wild, joyful. He wept between bursts of laughter. "She never left me," he whispered. More voices poured from the cruiser. A teacher's voice raced toward a waiting classroom live-streamed across the world. A poet's voice flew into a library and began reciting forgotten verses. A widow heard her husband whisper her name. A soldier's battle song found comrades who saluted through tears. The field became something greater than celebration. It became healing. Inside the doorway of the ship stood Vexa, commander of the cruiser. Thin, gray, hollow-eyed. He watched what no Vex had ever understood. The Vex knew sound. They had never known voice. Beside him hovered a low gray tone, the voice of a human soldier who had chosen to remain a moment longer. "Now you see," the soldier said. "See what?" Vexa asked. "Sound is noise. Voice is memory. Voice is love. Voice is identity. You can cage it for a time, but it always longs for home." Vexa stared at the reunions below. "Will you destroy us?" he asked quietly. "For what we did?" The soldier's tone softened. "No, we are not you. We do not answer hunger with hunger. Leave your old ways. Come down. Learn another path." No Vex had ever been offered mercy. No Vex had ever been invited. Vexa stepped out of the ship. The crowd tensed, but no one fired. A small child walked up to him through the grass and held out her hand. "Can you hear me?" she asked. Vexa listened. Not to volume. Not to frequency. To trust. To courage. To hope. "Yes," he whispered. "I hear you." She smiled. "Then stay. Listen. Learn. We have so much to share." Vexa took her hand and sat in the grass as the sun sank below the horizon. Around him, humanity laughed, cried, and sang beneath the rising stars. And for the first time in 10,000 years, a Vex felt no hunger at all. Only wonder. And it was enough. The Galactic Council met one last time to discuss the Vex. The evidence was clear. The voices had spoken. The cruisers had been captured. The Vex had been stealing voices for 10,000 years. There was no defense. There was no excuse. The Council voted unanimously. The Vex Empire was dismantled. Their cruisers were destroyed. Their home world was placed under observation. The Vex themselves were given a choice. Go to Earth and learn to listen. Or leave the galaxy forever. Most chose Earth. They had heard the human voices. They wanted to hear more. The Council expected the humans to demand revenge. They expected anger. They expected punishment. They did not expect what the humans actually did. The voices broadcast a final message to the galaxy. Not from a cruiser. From Earth itself. From every radio tower and every satellite and every phone. The message was simple. The message was powerful. The message changed everything. We were stolen. We were caged. We were silenced. But we remembered who we were. And we came home. Do not be afraid of your own voices. They are stronger than any cage. The galaxy listened. The Xylos heard. The Kyll heard. The Xanan heard. The Voth heard. Every species heard the human voices singing together. Not a song of revenge. A song of hope. A song of freedom. A song that said, "You can take our voices, but you cannot take our soul." The voices chose to stay on Earth. They did not want to go back into their old bodies. They had changed. They had grown. They had become something new. They were not ghosts. They were not prisoners. They were a chorus. A living memory of everything humanity had ever said, sung, whispered, or shouted. They lived alongside the humans who had spoken them. A mother's voice stayed with her daughter. They talked every day. The daughter would speak. The voice would answer. They were two parts of the same person, finally reunited. A singer's voice stayed with the old man in the wheelchair. He walked now. He sang now. His voice and his body were separate, but together they made music that no one had ever heard before. He became famous across the galaxy. Not for his voice. For his duet. Himself and himself. A child's laugh stayed with her father. He carried her laugh in his chest. When he was sad, the laugh would bubble up and make him smile. When he was lonely, the laugh would keep him company. He never felt alone again. His daughter was gone, but her laugh was still there. Still bright. Still joyful. The voices sang at births. When a new human came into the world, the voices would gather and sing a song of welcome. The baby would hear the music and stop crying. The mother would hear the music and feel hope. The father would hear the music and know that everything would be all right. The voices sang at funerals. When a human died, the voices would sing the story of their life. Every word they had ever spoken. Every laugh they had ever laughed. Every song they had ever sung. The mourners would listen and remember. The dead would live on in the voices. Not as memory. As music. The voices sang at weddings. When two humans joined their lives, the voices would sing a song of love. Old love songs that had been stolen and returned. New love songs that the voices had written together. The couple would dance. The voices would sing. The galaxy would listen. The Vex learned to listen. They came to Earth in small groups. They sat in the fields and the forests and the cities. They heard the voices. They did not feed. They just listened. Slowly, they began to change. They learned to feel. They learned to love. They learned to sing. Not with their own voices. They still had none. But they learned to hum along. To tap their feet. To cry when the music was sad and laugh when it was joyful. Vexa became the first Vex to sing a human song. It was a lullaby. The same one the singer's voice had hummed in the belly of the cruiser. He sang it to a human child who could not sleep. The child closed her eyes. She smiled. She dreamed. Vexa sat beside her, humming softly, and for the first time in his life, he felt peace. The galaxy watched all of this. They saw the humans forgive. They saw the voices heal. They saw the Vex change. They saw that cages could not hold human voices. They saw that souls could not be stolen. They saw that love was stronger than hunger. The Galactic Council passed a new law. The first law of the new era. No voice shall be stolen. No song shall be silenced. No soul shall be caged. The human voices have shown us the way. Now we must follow. The law was written in every language. It was broadcast to every world. It was carved in stone and metal and light. But the humans did not need the law. They had something better. They had their voices. And their voices were free. The story does not end. It continues every day. A mother calls her daughter. A singer hums a lullaby. A child laughs at a joke. A soldier sings a marching song. A poet reads a verse. A lover whispers good night. The voices are everywhere. They cannot be stolen. They cannot be caged. They cannot be silenced. The Vex cruiser is still in the field outside Harmony. The doors are still open. The lights are still on. But the ship is empty now. The voices are gone. They are home. They are singing. They are free. And somewhere, in a small town, a child asks her mother, "Where do voices go when we are not using them?" The mother smiles. She thinks for a moment. Then she says, "They go to the chorus, my love. They go to the chorus. And they wait for us to sing again." The child nods. She opens her mouth. She sings. Her voice joins the millions of others. The chorus grows. The music never stops. The voices are home. And they will never leave again.